In the last class we were talking about data collection methods, and we have discussed tests and questionnaires. Okay, let me summarize what we have studied till now. There are around 6 data collection methods that are being popularly used in social science research and also in educational research. Okay, in science we do not require most of the time all of the methods, but sometimes we may require those methods. So it is a good idea to know and understand these methods. It may be the case that you may require or might require any one of these methods in your research in order to collect your data for research purpose and analysis purpose. The test that we have studied, we have already talked about. These are the methods that are generally used by psychologists or social scientists to measure attitude, personality, interpersonal skills, performance of the participants in a let's say workshop, conference, or faculty development program. Even tests are being popularly used to assess the performance of students in their classrooms. And there are many standard tests are available, especially in psychological sciences, to measure many of the parameters of human intelligence and personal attributes of the persons. Okay, then the next method that is very popularly used for data collection is called questionnaires. In case of questionnaires, what we do, you create a set of questions. While preparing the set of questions, you always keep in mind what data you want to collect. Okay, so once you decided what data you want to collect and what is the purpose for the collection of data, then you start framing a set of questions for your participants, and those questions may be of generally of two types. Either your question will be a closed-end question. So closed-end question is a question where you give a set of options. From there, a participant or respondents need to choose any one of them, or sometimes one or two options from there. Okay, these are called closed-end questions because users do not have participants do not have flexible set of choices. They have been given a fixed set of choices, and from those choices they need to select some of the options that you have given to them. Sometimes only one option is required to be selected. Those questions are represented in form of radio buttons. Okay, you use radio buttons there, but sometimes you give a set of options where users can choose multiple options. So those options are generally provided in form of a set of checklists. Okay, set of option buttons, you could say. Once you frame the question, then it is important that you should also identify what are your respondents. Okay, so as per your research requirement and as per the availability of your participants and the kind of sampling you want to use, you select a set of participants, you recruit them, and then you share the questionnaire that you have prepared. Okay, and once you prepared a questionnaire, you have multiple methods. One method is that you can use your questionnaires printout. That means you can take a questionnaire in physical form, and then shares that questionnaire to your participants, and then participants provides their response as per their understanding to those set of questions, and then you collect their answers they have given. Okay, so once you collect answers from all of the participants, you start processing the data. Many times you need to digitize that data so that you can use data analytics and computational methods to analyze that data. Now one thing that you should remember, or you should be very careful about, is that when you have shared the questionnaires to your participants, you also need to provide some introductory idea about what is the purpose of this questionnaire, what is the purpose of your research, and you can also provide a set of guidelines to your participants so that they can follow these guidelines, and you frame these guidelines while keeping in your research objective in mind. Okay, it is very important. Okay, then there are some more methods. Generally you can also share your questionnaire to your participants with the help of emails. If you prepare your questionnaire in form of an online form with the help of like Google Doc or Monkey survey or some other site. Generally this is the most convenient way nowadays, because everybody have internet and everybody have at least mobile phone, so they can respond to your questionnaire very easily, and you can, with the help of this method, you can get a diverse set of participants. Okay, there is one more method that is now not very much popular because it is costly. That is, you can send your questionnaires to your participants through mail, that means by post. They will respond their questionnaire and then they will the response sheet they will put into an envelope and then mail back to you. But this will put a burden in form of this will put actually financial burden on your participants or on yourself. Actually, it may be the case that you may reimburse their postal charges. Okay, so it will be costly and it will also take time to collect the response. In order to send us questionnaires to the participants, it will take some 2-3 days, and again getting response back will take some more time. And also it may be the case that now participants may not reply timely to you. Okay, they will take or they will respond there as they are convenient, and sometimes it may be the case that participants may ignore to respond, and you may got very less response. So it is always better nowadays that you should go for online form. So in case of online form, people that will be very easy for your participants also, for you also. And in case of online form, for example in Google form, you automatically get the data in digitized form. Okay, and ready-made data you will have and you can easily analyze the data by just plotting, charting, and using different data analysis tool. Okay, so online form is more convenient, and also it provides better response rate. Okay, so that's why generally online form is used. So this is the questionnaire, and now let's talk about some other method for data collection. So next method that for data collection that is used in some research is interview method. Okay, now before going to discuss interview method, let's talk about the limitation of questionnaire methods. Actually, in case of questionnaire methods, you cannot probe your participants in a deeper way. What does that mean? Once you prepared a questionnaire and gave it to your participant, then participants will reply only the set of questions that you have given to them. Okay, but you cannot ask a different set of questions, or you cannot add dynamically a set of questions to your participant. Okay, that means you can not probe your participants in a better way. This can be facilitated by interview as well. Actually. Okay, so interview is again a data collection method where what you do, you ask a set of questions to your interviewee. Interviewee is the person that is being interviewed, or it is actually research participant. And generally many times researcher does not do interview directly. They recruit some persons that are having skill to take interview. Okay, so those persons are called interviewer. So many times actually researchers hires interviewer, and those persons are actually skilled persons, and they have experience and skill in taking good interviews. Okay, so as a researcher, what is your role then? You can ask them their research objective, and sometimes you also define what kind of interview protocols need to be followed, what will be the potential set of questions and outlines of the questions. Many times you can also completely give a kind of interview protocol. So interview protocol will define what is the research objective, for what purpose you want to collect the data, and who is your sponsor. All these information need to be given to interviewer, and then a sequence of questions that need to be asked to the participant. And sometimes you may want that only this order of the question should be followed. That means you should ask the questions to your participants in a given order only. You can specify that. And suppose if your research permits, you may or requires, you may also give interviewer a freedom that you can change the order of the questions that I have given to you to ask to your participant. Okay, so it depends on actually what the type of interview you are going to take. Okay, now as I told you that one of the major strengths of this method is that you can freely use probes. So probe means once you ask a question, interviewer gives a question, respond to your question, and then you can ask further set of questions as per their response. Okay, and once he or she gives a response, and then again you can raise another question on the basis of that response that participant have given. Okay, for example, suppose you ask that to your participant. Let's suggest an example. You ask your participant that do you smoke, then he or she say yes, I smoke. Then you may ask the reason, why do you smoke, how frequently do you smoke, what brand you uses, and so on. So many questions you can ask. Okay, so one response can generate some other questions, and you are free to ask a set of questions to a participant. And also is the case that you can ask a different set of questions, or you can probe each of the interviewer differently. Okay, so that means you can actually customize your interview as per your participant also. Okay, you can ask a different set of questions depending on their response to different interviewers. So there is a scope of freedom as a interviewer to you, and you can ask varieties of questions, and you can dig out lot of response or lot of information from your participants. Okay, that is the beauty or strength of this data collection method. Okay, now generally there are two type of interviews that you can classify them on the basis of how they are performed. One is called in-person interview, and second is called telephonic interview. So in-person interview means the interviewer is directly facing your interviewee. That is called in-person interview. Okay, so that means both interviewer and interviewee are sitting at same place. They are able to see each other, and you can ask. So the advantage of this kind of interview is that okay, 1 minute. Somebody is okay. So
सतवन जी आपके बैकग्राउंड में नॉइज आ रहा है.
हाँ, मेरे यहाँ भी होगा मे बी.
नहीं, सतवन जी को बैकग्राउंड में थोड़ा सा आ रहा है.
Okay, so in case of in-person interview, it is the case that you can since you meet your interviewer physically, your participant physically, so you can also observe certain other things while he or she is responding. You can monitor their facial expressions, how they are responding, their body language you can observe. Okay, their other kind of behaviors you can also monitor. Okay, that is the advantage, you can say that is there with in-person interview. But you know that in-person interview is a bit costly also, because in order to take an in-person interview, you have to you or your participant or interviewer and interviewee both have to be at same place. So you may require traveling to the place where interviewee is, or you may require that interviewee should come to meet to interviewer, and so on. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, so that is the problem. It may put additional financial burden on researcher. Okay, that is one drawback of also this method. Then there is another way that is called a telephonic interview. So in case of telephonic interview, you can use a computer assisted telephonic interview system that is already available, and you can hire the interviewer that is familiar with this kind of interview system, and then you can give the protocol and set of questions, and then by using telephonic interview you can take the interview of the interviewee. But now you can see that the advantage is that it will not give put much financial burden. Obviously you need to pay for computer assisted telephone interview system. You can hire it, or if you are have your institute or organization have that, then that's fine, then cost will be bit less for you. Otherwise you have to pay for this kind of interview, and also then it is required that the interviewer should be familiar with this kind of telephonic interview system. So if you are not familiar, then you may require to hire a professional, and you have to pay for that. And then once you hire a professional, he or she may be expert of that, and they will ask the questions that are given by you to your participants, and then they will collect all the answers. And many times this kind of systems that are called computer assisted telephone interview systems, they generally automatically generates data, in some cases in digitized form, and then the data that is generated may be directly used for analysis purpose. Actually, you can feed those data, the data that you have collected, to directly either Excel or SPSS or any other statistical analysis softwares that you may be using. Okay. Okay, there are some systems, telephonic interview systems are also, they give some kind of statistical analysis of also for your data. Okay, now this is your interview, but before, at the time of during taking interview, you also have to be careful, because once you are taking interview, okay, so that it may be the case that your participants may not give the answers correctly. He or she may tell lies for certain answers. So in order to avoid these kind of situations, actually you have to do certain background work first. First thing is that when you are doing interview need to be taken in confidence, and you also need, as an interviewer, you have to establish your rapport in the mind of the interview. How you can do that and why it is required, that is very important, because until you gain trust of your interviewee, you may not expect honest answer from your interviewer, or sorry, your interviewee, because he or she may have certain their own fears. Maybe कि आप अपना you may leak their data, or you can once they tell certain secrets to you, they may got in danger, or they may suffer certain kind of loss, and they may lost their reputations, and so on. There may be lot of fears between them. So you have to tell them clearly what is the purpose of your interview, what kind of research you are doing, and what is the importance of research, who is funded your research. And once you give them those kind of answers, they may give those information may give them a set of trust and confidence in you कि आप एक अच्छे पर्पज़ के लिए रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, योर रिसर्च अल्टीमेटली उनको बेनिफिट करेगी या कंट्री के लिए बेनिफिशियल होगी, ऑल दैट्स काइंड ऑफ स्टफ्स, एंड यू ऑल्सो नीड टू टेक देम इन कॉन्फिडेंस. Once you take them confidence, then they will give you the honest answer to you. Again, जैसा कि मैंने पहले भी बताया था, while giving the answers, you cannot force them to give the answers of all of their questions. You should also understand that, because they may have certain kind of reservations. They may not talk about their private information, and some kind of topics they do not feel comfortable with, or maybe there may be some social taboo or cultural taboo there, so they may not be comfortable with answering some of the questions of yours. So you should understand all these things while taking interview. Okay, that is very important. Okay, so these are the some of the things. And one more important thing, that once you are taking their interview, you should always remain unbiased. If you will behave positively as per their answer, or sometimes you react negatively as from once they give answers to certain set of questions, then they may not give you the honest answers, and there may be some bias that may be introduced. Okay, so you should be always careful as an interviewer, that you should not give any kind of impression that you are becoming saying that, or you are feeling positive with their answers, or you are feeling negative kind of sense while listening to their answers. So all these things you need to keep in mind. Okay, and then there are certain kind of interviews. Actually, there are other classifications are also as well for these kind of interviews. And there are 4 kind of interviews that are that have been classified. So interview can be classified in different ways. So one classification we have discussed, in personal interview and telephonic interview. There is one more classification that was given by Patton, and it is there in a tabular form in the document that I have shared with you. So you can go through that document that have given the categories of the interviews, their strength, characteristics, and weakness. So you can go through. I will just name them. I actually that PDF was not allowing to me any kind of editing or kind of selection, so that's why I could not put the table there. But you have that document, so you can go through with that document. Let me just have a brief idea about those type. So first type of interview is informal conversational interview. Okay, so this is an interview actually which is very much informal in nature, and there are since there is no formal interview questions, so you do not have a predefined set of questions in case of this interview. So interview is free, interviewer actually free to ask a set of questions. However, it is not this case that you can ask any kind of random questions from the interviewer, or sorry, interviewee. Obviously you will have some outlines that these kind of questions, or what is the objective that we want to achieve. So as per objective you will ask the questions to the your interviewee. Okay, now the disadvantage of this method is that since your questions are not in a structural form, okay, you can ask a very different kind of questions. So each you can ask different questions to different set of participants, and you get different set of answers. So once you get the data, that may not be have a uniform format, and it will may be difficult to answer, difficult to analyze these kind of data, because you will have a more diverse set of data, diversity ज़्यादा होगी data में, and it will become difficult to analyze. Okay, however, the advantage of this method is that you can ask questions as per the relevance of their answers, whatever they answers, and then you can freely ask questions, and that means you can use a free kind of probing. So you can ask as a result you may end up asking different set of questions with different interviews. Okay, so this is there are a lot of flexibility is there in this method. There is another interview method that is called interview guide approach. Here actually you are given a set of topics and issues that you need to cover in advance. So researcher give you all these things to the interviewer, and it will give what is the outline, what kind of topics will be there, on that you need to ask. Then here what interviewer decides the sequence of wording कि किस तरीके से question पूछना है, and what will be the sequence of questions. So in this case actually the set of questions that need to be asked are given. Okay, but what will be the order of those questions? is not decided. So as a interviewer, you are free to ask or to decide what should be the sequence of questions. Okay, so here you will have a lot of flexibility, and but since now your questions are a bit predefined, order is obviously not there. Order is independent. You are free to change the order, but set of questions are fixed. So in this case, almost you will ask each of the participants almost same set of questions. So you will get a same set of data from almost all participants. So now your interview is much more structured in comparison to the previous informal conversational interview. So whatever data you will receive after that interview will be better, will be more easy to analyze. Now there is one more type that is more highly structured interview, that is called standardized open-ended interview. So here the exact wording of the questions and the order of the questions, the set of questions will be decided in advance. So everything is freezed in advance. All interviews are asked the same set of basic questions, and the order will be obviously the same for all the questions. However, the questions may be some open-ended nature. They may be of open-ended nature. That means interviewee can give answers as per their convenience. There is no fixed set of options जिसमें से उनको choose करके आंसर करना है. Okay. So here this interview is more structured. Strength इसकी ये है कि this interview is more structured, and you will receive a almost same set of data that will be more easy to analyze. Okay, that is the advantage. However, disadvantage, if you talk about a disadvantage of this method, there is no flexibility. आपने flexibility खत्म कर दी है. You have specified the set of questions. ऑर्डर भी आपने उनका फिक्स कर दिया है. सो अब फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी नहीं है. सो आप प्रोबिंग में बहुत ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं कर सकते. ओके, दिस इज द disadvantage, sorry. Then there is a closed quantitative interview. Sorry, हाँ बताइए.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर.
हाँ
सर ये जो था सर टाइप्स, इसका क्या नाम था सर इंटरव्यू का?
कौन सा इंटरव्यू? स्टैंडर्डाइज्ड ओपन एंडेड इंटरव्यू. सो यू कैन गो टू पेज नंबर 191 of the Sage books joke chapter that I have given to you, where you have all these methods are listed. Their characteristics are given, strength and weaknesses are given. So that is a very good table. Actually, you can go through that. Okay. Now there is last category that is called closed quantitative interview. So in that question and response categories are determined in advance. Questions क्या होंगे, response की भी category क्या होगी, all these are determined in advance. So the answers actually are this is a more similar to your actually questionnaires. Okay, everything is fixed. Even कई सारे questions आपके जो हैं closed ended हैं. So responses are fixed. Closed ended है तो responses are fixed. Everything is fixed. So यहाँ पर जो data होगा since you are asking closed ended questions, so data can be used in quantitative research. Qualitative research में दिक्कत आएगी क्योंकि you cannot use numerical data or the answers that you are having from a set of options. Users को आप केवल जो इंटरव्यू है उसे सेट ऑफ ऑप्शंस में से आप चूज करने के लिए दे रहे हैं. सो ओबियसली यू विल गेट क्वांटिटेटिव डेटा, बट क्वालिटेटिव रिसर्च में आप उसे यूज नहीं कर सकते. ओके, सो डेटा एनालिसिस वेरी सिंपल होगा, बट रिसर्च का स्कोप बहुत लिमिटेड होगा बिकॉज यू कैन नॉट डू प्रोबिंग ऑफ द इंटरव्यूई. ठीक है, आप उसकी प्रोबिंग नहीं कर सकते. उसको एक फिक्स सॉर्ट ऑफ ऑप्शंस आप दे रहे हैं. समटाइम्स यस नो का आंसर यू विल पुट देम, यू नीड टू आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन इन यस और नो, एंड देन यू गिव द क्वेश्चन एंड देन पार्टिसिपेंट आपको यस नो में से आंसर करता है, या आपने फिक्स सेट ऑफ चॉइसेस दे दी, उसमें से चॉइसेस में से कोई एक आंसर वो देगा. ओके, सो ये जनरली जो मेथड है वो क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च में यूज होता है. बाकी जो 3 मेथड्स हमने पहले डिस्कस किए थे, दे कैन बी यूज्ड इन क्वालिटेटिव एंड क्वांटिटेटिव बोथ. वो ज़्यादातर केस में हालांकि क्वालिटेटिव मेथड के लिए यूज होंगे क्योंकि वहाँ पर डेटा जो होगा आपका क्वालिटेटिव नेचर का होगा. ओके, सो दीज आर द टाइप ऑफ इंटरव्यूज. And now if you talk about the tools and technologies that are required for interviews, so one is that you can take in-person interview. If you want to have telephonic interview, you have computer assisted telephone interview system that you can use, or if you want to take in-person interview in a in online way you can also do that. You can use various tools, various online meeting tools like Cisco, Zoom, GeoMeet, or a lot some other tools are there. Okay, Cisco WebEx is very important tool. Zoom is also popular that you can use for doing online interview. You can also use Google Meet for taking this kind of interviews also, and it will bring the cost down. Okay, and it will be easy also. आप time cut कर सकते हैं. Your interview will be more faster, and you all will be able to see the participants also. However, sometimes if some it may put some cost like bandwidth cost आपको लगेगी. But nowadays generally these are the most more popular emerging tools that may be used for in-person interview. Okay, so I have just given you the name of some of the tools. I am not saying that only these are the tools that can be used. There are some more tools that can also be used for these kind of interviews. Okay, now let's talk about another kind of data collection method that is called focus group. Okay, so in case in a focus group, actually what you do, suppose you want to have a topic on which you are doing some study and you want to have some data on that topic. So one way is to have a focus group. So focus group, in case of focus group, what you do, you have a set of participants. Okay, and then you call them at a place where they can discuss with each other. Okay, so you just have a set of participants. Let's say that they are sitting in a room or in a conference hall, something like that, and you work as a moderator. So it is a kind of actually a group discussion environment where you have a set of participants. They have been there for discussing on a topic that you have decided or that is related to your research problem, and you work as a moderator or facilitator for this discussion. Okay, and as a moderator or facilitator, actually you control this discussion. Okay, now this is one important thing why this kind of group discussion is called focus group. In case of group discussion, you can discuss on multiple topics, but in case of focus group, all the participants are required to discuss only on a single topic. Okay, that is a topic that researchers have given the participant for discussion. Okay, and the role of the moderator is to facilitate the discussion. Okay, so generally 1 minute. Sorry. So in case of focus group, the important difference from the group discussion is that the focus group discusses only on a single topic, and generally the participants actually 1 minute. Okay, so बार बार एक बार डिस्कशन पे मतलब गाड़ी पटरी से उतार दे रहे हैं. So what we were talking about, we are talking about the difference between focus group and normal group discussion. Actually, in case of focus group, the moderator is there whose main responsibility is to facilitate the discussion. So in case of the role of moderator is very important there. The first thing that he or she need to ensure is that the people should not divert from their topic of discussion. Okay, and moderator also observes the things during their discussion, and whatever he or she feels whatever important is there, he or she also does noting of that. And generally many times this kind of focus group discussions are recorded, so he or she may not do any kind of note making, but it is always a good idea to make note making. Sometimes some important thing is said about some topic by some participant, then it is better you should record them. Okay, or you should note it down. However, it is not necessary because you are doing recording also, so you can view recording also. बट समटाइम्स रिकॉर्डिंग में किस टाइम पॉइंट पर क्या बात इंपॉर्टेंट कही गई थी वो नोट फिर ढूंढना थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है, तो बेटर है कि आप रिकॉर्ड कर लें. ओके, सो जनरली द पीपल डू दिस, And sometimes it is also important that as a moderator you also need to see that everybody should participate in your discussion. It may not be the case कि कुछ ही लोग जो है ना पूरे discussion को dominate कर रहे हैं, they are just dominating and they are regulating or controlling whole discussion. Okay, so as a moderator you should ensure that everybody is participating and everybody is giving their opinion during the group discussion. And also sometimes it may be the case that the all participants have become silent, they are not talking, then you should interrupt there, and again you should restart a discussion by putting some important questions related to your discussion or something, some important fact about your topic or something. Somehow you should restart your interaction. Okay, so this is how as a moderator you will regulate the focus group discussion. Okay, now one more thing is important here is that while you use focus groups in your research, generally you should choose your participants carefully, and your participants that are participating in your focus group should be of homogeneous nature. Okay, क्योंकि sorry, because if people are maybe of non-homogeneous nature, then maybe हो सकता है कि आपका group discussion proper ना हो और उसको आपको control करना difficult हो जाए. Why? Because if people are not in homogeneous nature, तो they may have formed multiple different small chunks, जैसे आप technically graph के form में cliques बोलते हैं, या coalition बन जाते हैं. So जैसे आपने मान लीजिए 10 लोगों का group बैठा हुआ है, they are नॉन होमोजीनियस नेचर, तो लेकिन ऐसा नहीं होता कि एवरीबडी इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम एवरीबडी. सम पीपल मे बी ऑफ सेम नेचर एंड दैट मीन्स दे विल बी होमोजीनियस एंड दे विल फॉर्म कोलिशन kind of thing. Okay, so you should be careful regarding choosing your participants. Then that's why it is also important that जब आप फोकस ग्रुप्स को आप रिसर्च में यूज कर रहे हैं तो मल्टीपल आप फोकस ग्रुप्स को यूज करें अपने रिसर्च के लिए, बिकॉज इफ यू आर कलेक्टिंग डेटा फ्रॉम ओनली वन फोकस ग्रुप, then it may be the case that one focus group may not represent whatever view comes out in your focus group may not be generalized nature, may not be of generalized nature or universal nature actually. Okay, so that's why it is always the good thing that 4 to 5 focus group or more than that or around that, depending on your research problem and the kind of significance you want to achieve, you can have you can work with multiple focus groups. Okay, and again if you want to talk about the technology that can be used to achieve focus group is that you can use different online meeting tools like Google Meet is there, or GeoMeet is there, or Zoom. You can use Zoom, Cisco WebEx, or these kind of tools. So they can be also used for arranging this kind of focus group discussion. Okay. Any question till now? Till date?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now the last point. That is, sorry, now 2 points are there for data collection. But another now there is another method for data collection that is not very frequently used, but sometimes it is used by, and it is very powerful data collection method, and that is photography and video. Not in every research you require photography and video, but wherever such kind of data is useful, that will be very effective also. You might have heard that कि the statement that is sometimes called, I am just quoting, a picture is worth 1000 words. You might have heard this statement. A picture is worth of 1000 words. ठीक है, मतलब हजारों शब्दों से ज़्यादा एक पिक्चर कई बार बहुत कुछ कह देती है. So by just keeping in mind that there are in many cases sometimes image and research images and videos are very great source of information for some kind of research. especially you do it these kind of things in image processing में तो obviously you requires images for research purpose, but in another some other research खास करके social science and जो सोशल रिसर्च हैं या आप एनिमल्स की हैबिटेट मॉनिटरिंग या बिहेवियर एनालिसिस कर रहे हैं, एंड दे आर दैट इमेजेस एंड वीडियोज कैन ऑल्सो बी यूज्ड फॉर रिसर्च पर्पज. Okay, you can capture videos of, let's say you want to understand the behavior, or you want to study the behavior of bird, let's say sparrow. It is the वो बिहार का स्टेट पक्षी है ना, sparrow. So let's say suppose you want to do research on sparrow and you want to study their behavior. So one thing is that you can collect images at different places, and whatever actions they are doing and their actions you can capture through the images, and then you can analyze those images to identify and find out their behaviors and habits. And also you can collect videos silently while they are at their habitat, at their when they are feeding each other, feeding their childs, or when they are feeding in grounds and so on, and or whatever activity they are doing, you can record them, and you can use those videos to analyze and understand their research, their behaviors. Okay, and generally photographs generally are used with captions, and those captions can also provide additional information. Videos are accompanied with commentaries, and once you collect this image and video data, this data may be very useful for varieties of research. So this is one also, and this is also one source of information that you can use for data collection purpose. And sometimes many kind of observational studies, where you do observational studies, you can use images and videos there. हालांकि बहुत जगह पे इसकी ज़रूरत नहीं होती, बट स्टिल इन मैनी टाइम, खास करके आप देखेंगे हिस्ट्री में भी, इन केस ऑफ हिस्टोरिक हिस्ट्री में जो रिसर्च होती है वो भी कई बार फोटोग्राफी पर डिपेंड करती है. यू जस्ट वंस यू डिटेक्टेड वेरियस काइंड ऑफ आर्टिफैक्ट्स, यू कलेक्ट देयर इमेजेस and then carefully try to analyze those images with the help. कई बार आंखों से चीज़ें क्लियरली नहीं दिखती हैं या आप प्रॉपरली एनालाइज नहीं कर पाते हैं. यू कैन यूज वेरियस कंप्यूटेशनल टूल्स टू एनालाइज दोज इमेजेस. ओके, सो हिस्टोरिकल रिसर्च में भी कई सारे इमेजेस का बहुत यूज होता है, वीडियोज़ का भी यूज होता है एनालिसिस और रिसर्च पर्पज़ के लिए. सो हालांकि इनका स्कोप बहुत लिमिटेड है, बट वेर एवर दे आर यूज, दे प्रूव वेरी पावरफुल tools actually, or powerful data collection method. Now last but very important method, that is observation. That is one of the important data collection method. So in case of observation, what you do, you just watch the behavior pattern of the people or objects or animals in different scenarios and situations to obtain information about them. Okay, so observation, generally as a researcher, observation is very important thing, and you have to be a kind of people that can observe the things very minutely, है ना, बहुत बारीकी से चीज़ों को जिसमें ऑब्जर्व करने की कैपेबिलिटी होती है. दैट इज टू बी प्रूव्ड ए गुड रिसर्चर. सो एज ए गुड रिसर्चर, अगर आप गुड रिसर्चर बनना चाहते हैं, देन यू शुड डेवलप द कैपेबिलिटी टू ऑब्जर्व द थिंग्स माइन्यूटली, बहुत बारीकी से देखने की. कई बार कहते हैं ना, बारीक नज़र होना चाहिए आपकी. सो एज ए रिसर्चर यू हैव टू ऑल्सो हैव दिस काइंड ऑफ व्यू, आपकी भी बारीक नज़र होना चाहिए. एंड मैनी टाइम्स इन मैनी रिसर्च एक्चुअली ऑब्जर्वेशन इज यूज्ड to understand the behaviors of people. If you are studying people's behavior, or if you are studying animals or birds, you can also use observation, okay, to study any kind of phenomena that you want to understand about them. जैसे आपको birds का habitat समझना हो, what kind of habitat they use, how they what is the kind of routines they follow. Migratory bird को आप ऑब्जर्व करना है, then you can also observe them, and if you want to study, you can do observation. And then during observation you also do data recording also. So recording means you take notes of the observations. Whatever you observe, you take note of that. Sometimes observation करते समय आप photography भी use कर सकते हैं. You can also use videography of that also. So observation is a very important data collection method that is used in many time for research. Okay. So observation में आप क्या करते हैं? You just see the things such as objects. You can observe processes, relationships, events and record those events. So आप record करने के कई तरीके हो सकते हैं. You are just simply observing और अपने दिमाग में रिकॉर्ड कर रहे हैं. जनरली ये हम नहीं करते हैं, बहुत केयरफुल, क्योंकि आप भूल जा सकते हैं. और you do photography, you can do videography, you can do you can note, you can make notes. Field we can call them field notes. आप field notes बना सकते हैं. Okay, so observation is very important research method. Now actually there are two kind of observations that you can do. One is called structured or quantitative direct observation. So in this kind of process, the observations are recorded against agreed checklist. So जब आपको if you are going to do certain research, so you have created a checklist कि आपको क्या क्या observe करना है. So for example, suppose you are studying how the teacher teaches in online classes, or let's say online classes की बात कर लेते हैं. How teacher teaches in online classes. So it may be the case that कि जब teacher online teaching कर रहे हैं, you may be observing their behavior कि जब वो teach कर रहे हैं, so how उनकी tone क्या है, how frequently they are speaking, how the words they are repeating, kind of thing. So whatever you are observing, you are recording. Okay, so this is called structured or quantitative direct observation. And why it is called structured? Because you have created a checklist already in advance कि आपको क्या क्या चीज़ें ऑब्जर्व करना है. आपको उनके टीचर के टोन ऑब्जर्व करना है, उनके फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन ऑब्जर्व करना है, या उनके बॉडी मूवमेंट को ऑब्जर्व करना है ना. व्हाट काइंड ऑफ, सो जो भी ऑब्जर्वेशन आपको करने हैं, यू जस्ट मेक ए चेकलिस्ट ऑफ देम एंड देन उन्हीं पॉइंट्स के अकॉर्डिंग आप पर्सन को ऑब्जर्व करते हैं. Okay, this is called structured or call it quantitative direct observation. Then you can also do expert observation also. That is a different kind of thing. Sometimes if you are studying let's say teachers in a school or in a college, so आप कई तरीके से उनको स्टडी कर सकते हैं. आप उनके साथ पार्टिसिपेंट बन के रह सकते हैं, आप उनको एज ए रिसर्चर ऑब्जर्व कर सकते हैं. वी विल टॉक अबाउट दैट लेटर. नाउ इट इज़ इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग दैट ऑब्जर्वेशन जब आप कर रहे हैं, तो if the person that you are observing knows that you are observing him or her, then it may be the case that he or she may not behave whatever their actual behavior is, है ना. So observation करते समय आपको याद रखना है कि किस तरीके से आपको ऑब्जर्व करना है. समटाइम्स you may be okay with that के participant आपको जानता है कि आप उसे observe कर रहे हैं, so that's why he may change their natural behavior, he may not show their natural behavior. It is human nature and sometimes animals के अंदर भी nature है. Then once the humans or animals understand that somebody is observing them, then they may not behave naturally. Okay, so now it is also important to understand that कि आपको क्या चाहिए. Okay, if you want their natural observation, okay, then you should not tell them that you are observing them. However, जब आप ऐसा करते हैं, then a research ethics question arises. क्योंकि आप जब किसी को ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं साइलेंटली, so it is not a ethical kind of thing. But it depends on the importance of research कि ये permitted है या नहीं है ना. So it depends. Sometimes it can be ethical, sometimes generally it is considered unethical कि आप किसी को ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं रिसर्च के लिए एंड he or she doesn't know that you are observing them. So जब तक कि आपकी रिसर्च कोई ऐसी कंट्रोवर्शियल नहीं है, तब तक तो कोई इशू नहीं है. एंड समटाइम्स आपको इनकी परमिशंस भी लेना पड़ सकती है सम एंटिटीज से कि इफ़ यू आर ऑब्जर्विंग समवन फॉर एग्जांपल आप वाइल्ड लाइफ में बर्ड्स की ऑब्जर्वेशन कर रहे हैं, तो आपको हो सकता है कि फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट से परमिशन लेना पड़े. समटाइम्स कई एनिमल्स के बिहेवियर को आप ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं, तो एनिमल्स से रिलेटेड जो भी गवर्नमेंट बॉडीज़ हैं या और कोई बॉडीज़ हैं, हो सकता है आपको उनसे परमिशन लेना पड़े. सिमिलरली इफ़ यू आर लेट्स से ऑब्जर्विंग द बिहेवियर ऑफ टीचर्स in a school, how let's say that is a school that is fully campus based school जहाँ पे teacher residential school you can say that students are also living there, teachers are also living there, and you want to study the behavior of teachers, then आपको किसी न किसी अथॉरिटी से परमिशन लेना पड़ सकती है. दैट मे बी आप प्रिंसिपल से परमिशन ले लें, then you can do these kind of observation. So observation के केस में जो observational studies होती हैं उसमें sometimes ethical question may arise, so you have to be careful about those kind of ethical observations, ethical kind of issues that may arise, ethical issues that may arise. ठीक है. So whenever a permission is required you should go for that. ठीक है. परमिशन लेकर के ही ये काम करना चाहिए, अदरवाइज जब आपको मालूम है कि इफ़ यू विल नॉट फॉलो रिसर्च एथिक्स देन यू मे गेट पनिश्ड. नाउ जो ऑब्जर्वेशंस हैं जनरली दो टाइप के सिनारियोज में की जा सकते हैं, बट फर्स्ट इज कॉल्ड लेबोरेटरी ऑब्जर्वेशन. सो जैसा कि मैंने बताया कि लेबोरेटरी ऑब्जर्वेशन का मतलब है कि वेयर यू हैव क्रिएटेड ए आर्टिफिशियल एनवायरनमेंट एंड यू आर ट्राइंग टू ऑब्जर्व your participants. For example, suppose you want to study the behavior of students in a classroom. So एक तरीका है लेबोरेटरी के एनवायरनमेंट में आपने you have created just mirror, one side mirror at some place, and जहाँ से आप बच्चों को देख सकते हैं लेकिन बच्चे आपको नहीं देख सकते हैं, and then you are observing their behaviors. जिस भी पर्पज के लिए आपको या जिस टारगेट बिहेवियर को ऑब्जर्व करना है यू मे ऑब्जर्व देयर टारगेट बिहेवियर. सो दिस काइंड ऑफ सेटिंग इज नाउन एज लेबोरेटरी ऑब्जर्वेशन. ओके. और भी तरीके हो सकते हैं लेबोरेटरी ऑब्जर्वेशन के जहाँ पे आप चीज़ों को लैब में ऑब्जर्व कर रहे हैं. ओके. सो समटाइम्स लेबोरेटरी ऑब्जर्वेशन मे नॉट बी ए नेचुरलिस्टिक ऑब्जर्वेशन एंड द पर्सन दैट इज बीइंग ऑब्जर्व्ड और द एनिमल और द ऑब्जेक्ट दैट इज बीइंग ऑब्जर्व्ड may be aware about yours that you are observing, so he or she may not show the actual behavior that I have already told you. Okay. So there is another way of doing observation is called naturalistic observation. So in case of naturalistic observation you do or you carry out your research or study or observation in a natural environment, and many time in this environment generally your participant don't know that you are observing them. Okay. So again हालांकि इस केस में नेचुरलिस्टिक एनवायरनमेंट में जब आप ऑब्जर्वेशन करेंगे सो मैनी टाइम्स इथिकल प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकती हैं, सो यू हैव टू बी केयरफुल अबाउट दैट. जहाँ पर परमिशंस की ज़रूरत होती है, मैनी टाइम्स कई केसेस में परमिशंस की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है और आप ऐसी रिसर्च कर सकते हैं, बट यू हैव टू टेक द परमिशंस. ओके. नाउ वन मोर थिंग, एक एग्जांपल मैं आपको देना चाहूँगा. समटाइम्स क्या होता है जब आप ऑब्जर्वेशनल रिसर्च करते हैं, सो ऑब्जर्वेशनल रिसर्च में समटाइम्स जो यूजर्स का जो एटीट्यूड होता है जब आप ऑब्जर्वेशन कर रहे हैं तो यू हैव टू बी केयरफुल दैट देयर एटीट्यूड एंड देयर एक्शंस आर नॉट consistent with each other or congruent with each other. What does that I mean? Let me give you an example that I have studied there itself. So La Pere was a researcher. He was a US social scientist researcher. He studied actually problem that is related to Chinese people actually in 1934. So what was he studied? Let me tell you in brief. He wanted to actually know that various kind of restaurants and hotels, lodging and that restaurant or hotel that they provide lodgings and boarding to people. Okay, so what were they he just wanted to understand what was their attitude towards Chinese people. Okay, he just wanted to understand what was the attitude of them towards their Chinese people. So he just collected the answers from them by some means, questionnaire के form में or something. So he just find out that 92% of people reported that they will not accept Chinese customers. जो लॉजिंग बोर्डिंग के जो लोग थे वहाँ पे, so 92% लोग, you can think of बहुत high number है, 92% of people said that we will not give accommodation to Chinese people, ऐसा उन्होंने बोला. बट जब ला पीरे ने क्या किया, what he did actually, he traveled through almost 16,000 kilometers, you can say that 10,000 miles in United States over 2 year of period with a Chinese couple actually. एक चाइनीज़ कपल के साथ ही ट्रेवल्ड टू द यूनाइटेड स्टेट, और लगभग 16,000 किलोमीटर उन्होंने 2 साल में ट्रैवल किया, और वेरियस लॉजिंग और जो लॉजिंग और जो होटल्स थे जहाँ पे एकोमोडेशन दी जाती है उनको कांटेक्ट किया, एंड उनके साथ एक चाइनीज़ कपल था, ही वाज विद अ चाइनीज़ कपल, एंड यूजुअली लॉजिंग अरेंजमेंट के लिए ही यूज टू गो विद अ चाइनीज़ मैन एक्चुअली। मेल फीमेल एक कपल था, दैट मीन्स एक कपल था, तो उसमें से जो मेल को वो साथ में लेके जाते थे बोर्डिंग लॉजिंग के लिए। देन ही ऑब्जर्व एक्चुअली, इनिशियली जब उन्होंने एक ऐसे ही असेसमेंट किया, लोगों से क्वेश्चनेयर्स करके या पूछा, तो 90% लोग 92% पीपल सेड दैट वी विल नॉट गिव एकोमोडेशन टू चाइनीज़। लेकिन जब एक्चुअली उन्होंने ट्रैवल किया एक चाइनीज़ के साथ में और एकोमोडेशन के लिए गए डिमांड करने के लिए, तो ऑलमोस्ट 99% या ये कहिए टोटल जिन लोगों से भी मिले उसमें से केवल कुछ ही लोगों ने, आई गेस 1 और 2 लोगों ने ही डिनाई किया कि हम चाइनीज़ को अकोमोडेशन नहीं देंगे, सब ने दिया। जबकि 92% पीपल वाज सेइंग दैट वी विल नॉट गिव चाइनीज अकोमोडेशन टू चाइनीज इन एनी केस। सो दैट मीन्स व्हाट ही फाउंड आफ्टर दिस स्टडी, दैट कि जो लोगों का जो एटीट्यूड है, जो वो दिखाते हैं, जरूरी नहीं है जो जो कह रहे हैं वो वही करते हों। दैट इज़ द मीनिंग एक्चुअली, एंड यू नो दैट ये आपने सोसाइटी में ये सब ऑब्जर्व किया होगा, बट ही प्रूव्ड दैट in this scenario, in this example case. So actually what I was, why I was saying this story, that once you observe, once you are doing observational based research or you are observing, then sometimes जो people है जो जैसा कह रहे हैं या जो जैसा बोल रहे हैं दिखावा कर रहे हैं, sometimes people are not of that nature, they may be different. So उनका जो real nature है sometimes वो तब बाहर आता है जब they know that nobody is watching them. Okay, but if they know that they are being watched by someone and somebody is observing them, then they may not show their natural behavior. So while doing observation, you should be careful about that. Okay, so lot of things, lot of things are there, you just go through that. बहुत ज़्यादा डिटेल में मैं नहीं जा रहा हूँ, सो आप इसमें बुक से पढ़ सकते हैं ना। ऑब्जर्वेशन करने के भी कई तरीके होते हैं, जैसे आप देखेंगे कि क्वालिटेटिव या क्वांटिटेटिव रिसर्च करते हैं, तो आपके यू कैन जस्ट गो थ्रू विद दैट। Now there are some more definitions. There is one more way for data collection method. That means you can also gather data that is already existing, or you can construct the data. So many times as a computer scientist we generally construct the data. Okay, so many times when you are doing research you will construct the data, but whatever we are going to talk about here is not that kind of construction. So constructed data means the data that is being produced by your participants. So for example, suppose you want to study the behavior of some of the participants, and you just give them to draw something, to write something, all that. So that kind of data that your participants are generating, like in form of drawing, painting, diaries, recordings, videos, or other kind of stuffs, then such data is called constructed data. So in many research actually, generally ये research ये काम हम social sciences की studies में करते हैं, हमारे साइंस में नहीं करते हैं, साइकोलॉजिकल स्टडीज में कर सकते हैं। यहाँ पे हम पीपल से कहते हैं वी गिव समथिंग एंड वी टेल देम टू कंस्ट्रक्ट समथिंग, सो सच डेटा इज कॉल्ड कंस्ट्रक्टेड डेटा। एंड मैनी केसेस में आप भी सिमुलेशन के थ्रू डेटा जनरेट करते हैं, दैट इज ऑल्सो ए काइंड ऑफ कंस्ट्रक्टेड डेटा। कई बार आपको एक पर्टिकुलर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन को फॉलो करने वाला डेटा जनरेट करना है, सो दैट मीन्स यू आर कंस्ट्रक्टिंग द डेटा आइटम्स। फॉर एग्जाम्पल सपोज दैट मैं जनरली सोशल साइंस में सोशल नेटवर्क में काम करता हूँ, सो इन केस ऑफ मैनी सोशल नेटवर्क्स सारा सोशल नेटवर्क का डेटा गैदर करना मुश्किल होता है, तो जनरली वी नो दैट के दिस काइंड ऑफ सोशल नेटवर्क्स फॉलो दिस काइंड ऑफ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, सो हम उस डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन के थ्रू डेटा जनरेट कर लेते हैं, आर्टिफिशियल डेटा लेबोरेटरी में। एंड देन इन मैनी सिमुलेशन स्टडीज दैट आर्टिफिशियल डेटा इज यूज्ड। Okay, so data can be constructed. Then you can also collect secondary and existing data. So what does the secondary data means? Secondary data means actually that data is created by someone with their own research for the purpose of their own research, and then they put that data into public domain. Now it may be the case that why we are calling this as a secondary data, because when you are going to use this data is actually not developed for your question or the research problem that you are handling or that you are going to work with. So this data is created for different purpose, but you can use this data and adapt this data as per your research needs. So that data will be called secondary data. So many times the data that government reports, स्टैटिस्टिक्स के जो लोग हैं कई बार जो गवर्नमेंट की कंसेंसस वाला डेटा है या ह्यूमन राइट्स कमीशन जो डेटा पब्लिश कर रहे हैं या स्टॉक मार्केट का जो ऑलरेडी पब्लिश्ड डेटा है जो कि कलेक्टेड है ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल है पब्लिक डोमेन में, that has been generated by someone for their research and you can use that data. Okay, so these are the data that is already existing. So many times you use this data. आप भी कई बार हम जब मशीन लर्निंग में भी एग्जिस्टिंग डेटा को यूज करते हैं. You might have seen that many data sets are available and sometimes कई डेटा सेट्स जो ऑलरेडी अवेलेबल डेटा सेट्स हैं you can reuse them and हो सकता है कि आप उनको थोड़ा बहुत अपने अकॉर्डिंग मॉडिफाई और अडेप्ट करें, बट दैट डेटा इज ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग. सो secondary data can also be there that you need to collect. इसके बाद there are various forms of data. That means you can have personal documents. So personal documents मतलब जो participants हैं उनके कुछ personal documents हो सकते हैं, like there some of the participants writes diaries, किसी ने book लिखा है, किसी ने कुछ drawing तैयार की है. So you can call those data as personal documents and you the photograph, drawing, painting, whatever they have generated, you collect them for each of the participants and then analyze that data to understand the behaviors of your participants. There is one more category that is called official documents. So these are the documents that are created by various officials of the governments or government departments or many times some companies actually or also these called official documents. Sometimes newspapers, educational journals, magazines, annual reports, minutes of the meetings of the board of studies or let's say some committee of the government organization, university, all that. So these documents can also be used as a secondary data, can be used as a data source. Then there is one more source of data that is generally called physical data. So physical data means the kind of data that is generated by a person and is left as a physical footprint. For example, किसी पर्सन के लिए हो सकता है फिजिकल डेटा का मतलब उसका डीएनए रिकॉर्ड हो सकता है, फिंगरप्रिंट्स हो सकते हैं, पीपल के जो घर के बाहर जो ट्रेस है, कचरा है, उसमें समटाइम्स कई बार उस पर्सन के बारे में जो इन्फॉर्मेशन है दैट हैव बीन लेफ्ट बिहाइंड, दैट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड फिजिकल डेटा. ओके, मे बी आपके जूतों के साथ जो मिट्टी है दैट विल ऑल्सो बी ए kind of physical data that will your clothes, your properties, ठीक है, that can be help you to understand you, है ना. So these are your physical data. These are some of examples. Then there are lot of archive data. So government के archive में भी कई सारा डेटा हो सकता है that may be available in CD फॉर्म, DVD फॉर्म, हार्ड डिस्क, पेन ड्राइव के फॉर्म में हो सकता है. लाइक आपने देखा होगा कि बहुत सारे लोग सुभाष चंद्र बोस या और जवाहरलाल नेहरू या कई सारे जो लीडर्स हैं उनके ऊपर रिसर्च करते हैं. सो गवर्नमेंट के आर्काइव में उनके लेटर्स हो सकते हैं, उनके डॉक्यूमेंट्स हैं, बुक्स हैं, उनसे रिलेटेड चीज़ें हैं. दे मे बी आर्काइव्ड एंड यू कैन गेट the copy of that data, you can see them and then you can do research using that data also. So these are different kind of categories of the data that are comes into this category: constructed, secondary and existing data. Okay, so data collection में इतना ही. बाकी आपका जो डॉक्यूमेंट है आप I will suggest you कि जो मैंने आपको चैप्टर 8 सजेस्ट शेयर किया है, you can go through that. Okay, any question?
No sir.
ओके, चलिए.
Okay sir.